Hi, everybody. So nice to see you. This is probably the best part of my day, I'm going to tell you. I'm super tired, and I'm looking at myself in the camera, the phone, and I'm thinking, I look as tired as I feel. But anyway, it's just been a crazy week, and been a really long day. I was sitting with somebody at the ER, and she's fine. She's all good now. Well, she's not quite feeling better, but nothing serious. So it all was fine, and I was happy to do that for her. But yeah, just a long, long day. And it's only Wednesday, and I have so much to do yet. And I have been working on prepping my catalogs and some inserts to go in those to get in the mail. I decided I would send them out myself this time instead of using the mailing selector. If you have ordered Stampin' Up! Products from me since October, you are on the list to receive a complimentary catalog from me. If you're a former customer and maybe didn't purchase in that time frame, just let me know if you're interested, and I'm happy to send you one. And of course, if you're not currently working with a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to be your demonstrator. And you just need to message me your full name and mailing address and email, and I will be sure and put you on my catalog list as well. So I was hoping the first round of catalogs could go out by tomorrow. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm going to be working hard and hoping I can get they're ready for shipping labels. But it's a lot to do all at once. And then I'm going to tell you right now, I will not be on a Facebook Live on Friday, most likely. Friday and Saturday, Andrea and I are going to be working on wedding invitations. And then, of course, Sunday is Easter. But today, I have some great news, too. I closed out yesterday, ended registration for my garden birdhouses class to go. And I had the most number of people registered for that class ever. So I'm super excited. My classes continue to grow, and that just was really exciting to see that happen. The current class to go registration is open for the Simply Succulents class. And there's 3 options for that. The first one includes the stamp set and the dies. The second one does not. It's just the card supplies. And then option 3 is always just the PDF tutorial. But there is information if you're not on my email list and you haven't seen that information, you can find it on my blog, stampinpeace.com. And I'll tell you right now, all of you, if you would like to be on my email newsletter list, they probably go out about twice a month. I include things like creative inspiration, Stampin' Up! Promotions, classes to go, any events I might have, that sort of thing. And also my blog. Those are the 2 places that you basically can get all of my information that goes out. And you can subscribe to either one of those or both of those. And you can do that on my blog, stampinpeace.com. You look in the right column, and there's a place for you to subscribe to the newsletter and or subscribe to the blog, and the blog posts go right to your email, which is convenient for you. So just a heads up about that. And again, that Simply Succulents class to go is open for registration now, with information on the blog if you haven't seen it in an email. And ironically, what I have planned for today is part of the Simply Succulents bundle. And we're actually going to be using this part, this large background die, I'll call it, from that set. So I'm going to flip my camera around now, and we'll get started then. If you would please share this live video, I would appreciate it greatly. So you're getting a sneak peek of some things here. I've got my grid paper. You can see we're going to be using blending brushes. But the first thing we're going to do is actually, and it's going to be, how do I say it? This is a little overpowering in your screen, but it'll just be for a moment while I do some die cutting. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a piece of basic white. And the reason I chose basic white, and you'll see I'm going with the technique I'm going to show, we're actually going to make 2 cards. If you're using this only as your stencil and making several, you might choose to cut it in a different color cardstock. But we are going to be using both the positive and negative parts of the technique I'm going to show you. So therefore, I'm choosing white. And you want that piece to be 5.5 by 4.25. And the die is almost that size, I'll say. Now, because there are so many cuts to be made with this die, I like to go back and forth. And you can see now that some of those pieces are starting to fall out. And then here's a trick for you. You can take the 2 cutting plates. Here, let me move this aside. You can take the 2 cutting plates, hold them off and flip them. Take off this one, and you can take a quick, easy look and see if everything cut. If it didn't, I would just put it right back on top and I would send it through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine the same way. This time, it's in the opposite direction. But it looks like everything cut really well, so I don't feel the need to do that. And you can use your, I don't even know where mine is. I always forget to pull out my brush ahead of time. And I don't have it in with everything else to my right because I don't use it as often. But you can use your blending brush. This is an attachment to our take your pick tool. And with this technique, you do want to be sure that you get out all the tiny little pieces. So if there's any left in here, go around the edge, because there's a lot of teeny tiny ones. But you do want to be sure and get those all out. But most of them will just really just pop out. I love how nicely, how cleanly our dies are cutting with this new manufacturer. And of course, I think our new machine helps as well. Although they're not that new anymore, are they? And then just when you pull it out, just be kind of gentle because it can be kind of delicate. But as you can see, that came out of the die pretty easily for me. So now the next step is, and you will want to have some kind of grid paper or scrap paper. Oh, Erica Moxley, first time here. Welcome. I'm happy you're here. So you're going to need some kind of scrap paper or grid paper. And I'm going to use a piece of 5.25 by 4-inch white cardstock. So this first one was 5.5 by 4.25. And then the bottom one that I'm going to lay on top, that I'm going to lay this on top of, is just a little bit smaller at 5.25 by 4 inches. Let me take another look. Okay, I think I got them all this time. Now, one very important part here is I suggest you use some washi tape or painter's tape, something like that, because you want to hold this in place. We're using this as a stencil. And when you want to tape these together, well, if I can find it, there we go. You want to tape these on the top and bottom, and you want your washi tape to be on both the top stencil, I'll call it, and the bottom cardstock. So I'm just going to line this up, and I'm going to keep this edge just slightly over the edge of the stencil, but laying on the cardstock. And make it as straight as you can, but don't worry about if it's off a tiny bit, because I'm actually, to make the two cards, I'm actually going to cut the size of each of these down a little bit. Now you can see it's kind of lifting in the center here. That's okay, because you can put your finger down at different places while you're working. And the first thing I'm going to do is do some blending. And I've chosen three colors that I thought would be great for succulents. So I'm using Rich Razzleberry, Old Olive, and Mossy Meadow. I know it's all kind of close, so you're not getting the picture of everything, but I want you to be able to see this really well. So I'm going to start with the Old Olive, the lighter of the two greens, and I'm just going to blend in that color, that ink, again, Old Olive, in a couple of different places. Maybe 2 or 3 places. And it doesn't really matter where, you just pick and choose and you go for it. How about if I do up in this corner? And I think I'll do in here. And obviously you can go darker and lighter when you're applying. If you want darker, you just would apply more ink and do more blending. I absolutely love these brushes. If you have not used these, you need to try them. I love having these. It's just, they just make for really nice, soft color. And they're just easy. There's little to no cleanup. And you can use the same brushes with multiple colors as long as you wipe off the color in between. But I feel like it just gives you a nice soft blending, but also gives you, I think I wanted to do the darker color. Maybe I did. Gives you some nicer variety. Did I switch? I was talking and now I don't know if I switched blending brushes. Yeah, I think I did. Okay. But I want the second color, which is Mossy Meadow. I want this to show up much darker. So I'm going to be adding some heavier layers with the Mossy Meadow. And it's okay if one color runs into another color. It actually, for succulents, it's actually a little bit nicer when that happens. I'd say that's pretty good. So I've used Old Olive and Mossy Meadow. And then the last color I'm going to use is my Rich Razzleberry. And as you can see, I've left 3 spaces because I kind of want the Rich Razzleberry to kind of stand out, to pop against the 2 greens. And of course, you can choose any colors you want. Absolutely any. And if you want even more contrast between the 2 greens, you could do something like swap out the Old Olive for, say, Pear Pizzazz, or Mossy Meadow could be swapped out for Evening Evergreen, or maybe you want a real bright one like Granny Apple Green in there. You can't go wrong. Isn't that pretty? Looks sharp. So this is Rich Razzleberry against the Old Olive and the Mossy Meadow. And if you wanted to go really light, you can do that. Don't add more ink, just go really light. I kind of want to go a little darker on this one. So I'm going to just add some more of that rich raspberry here in this corner. And you can see how the colors have overlapped and blended together, the rich raspberry with the other two. Yes, I love this color combination. When I found rich raspberry and old olive, how well they work together years ago, I was like, oh, I have to remember that. And then really, so many of these greens work well together, and rich raspberry goes with all of those greens. So it's awesome. All right, let me push all these out of the way. I'm going to keep my blending brushes in order in case I decide I need to do something more, or in case you'd be making several. And then I'm carefully going to pull off my washi tape. And I find that if you pull at an angle, a small angle across instead of pulling up and across, that it comes off pretty cleanly and easily. So you don't have to worry about tearing your cardstock so much. And remember, I'm going to be cutting both of these down. We're actually going to make 2 cards. So look at this. Now this is what we've done. Let me turn it the same direction it was. Isn't that gorgeous? And then this, look how this looks on the white. So now I'm going to cut each of these down, and I want them to be, and I could just go along and cut off the little bit of white edge on each of them, but I'm just going to make it easy and take it down to 5 inches by 3 3/4 on each. So that means, and I don't want to cut off, if I'm cutting off a 1/4 inch, I don't want to cut off a 1/4 inch on just one end, because I've got this white border all the way around. So we start at 5 1/4, so I'm going to go down just by 1/8. And on the other side, we started at 4, so I'm going to go down 1/8. And that's all I'm going to do is go down 1/8 inch. You could make it even smaller if you wanted to. Now when I get here, I know on this 1/8 I should be at 5 inches. And the last turn I should be at 3 3/4. So there's my 5 inch by 3 3/4. Isn't that stunning? I mean, that alone is beautiful. Can you picture that large in a frame on your wall? I sure can. Now I'm going to also cut this down, but before I do that, because this is rather delicate to cut down, and I don't want to risk tearing into the design, so this is what I'm going to do. I want to actually glue this to a piece of cardstock, and then this will be my whole card front. Now I'm going to let you... I'm going to give you a choice here. So here, it would be on white. Here's what it looks like on Pear Pizzazz. We could also try, this is soft seafoam. So what do you think? Should we go with white, soft seafoam, or Pear Pizzazz? I didn't choose one of the same colors because the lines are so fine. I just felt like, you know, if we went, say like this, if we went with one of the colors that's already there, it doesn't really stand out. So what do you think? White, soft seafoam, pear. I have to scoot back here. I see some pears. I see soft seafoam. Oh, Doris was the first one. She says go with soft seafoam. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So I need to, and I'm going to trim this off just because I don't need that whole piece of cardstock. And what I'm going to do is glue this to the solid cardstock. And I'm going to make it really easy and have little mess. because we know this, you're thinking, oh, Mary, how are you going to get that glue on there and stick it on without making a mess? Here's the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to use my silicone craft mat or craft sheet. And I'm sure you can see, yes, you can on the screen. You can see the glue from before. You can just wipe that off with your fingers. When the glue dries, that's the cool thing. And it's not even sticky or tacky, but I wanted to show you that, but I'm actually going to flip it over to the other side. If you're doing multiple things, you do want to be careful, because if you're splotching a lot of glue down and then you move this or put another one down, you're actually going to be getting your front sticky. So just be aware of that. If this is someplace that you wanted to use washi tape again, I would say go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is just give myself a little puddle of glue. You don't need a whole lot. And I'm ready to hold this in place with my fingers. I'm going to dab that sponge into the multi-purpose glue. And I'm really focusing on going around the outside. I'm really not too worried about the middle, but I do want to try to get all the way around the outside, including the design within the frame. And if you want to add a little to the center, you know, go right ahead. But it's more essential that you get the glue around the edges. And then you know what? Oh, I don't want to flip that over. This is where I need another craft sheet that doesn't have glue on it to lay this one down. But I think I can, oh yeah, I did that pretty well without getting glue on my tabletop. And you just press that down. So it's a very tiny bit of glue, but this way you're not getting all that residue in the negative spaces. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. Now I did cut this originally to 5.5 by 4.25. I could cut it down to 5.25 by 4 inches. I think for this demonstration, I'm going to cut it down to 5 inches by 3.75, just like the first one I did. However, make sure that, because you can see that angles aren't the same, okay, going around. So wherever you start, you might want to just, you can see I don't have it all the way against the top of my paper cutter, because I wanted to get this fairly straight. And I'm going to go to the widest part here and cut this off. I also know that if I need to make it even smaller, I can do that. You know, if you didn't get it glued on quite right. So now it looks like I'm in a good place to cut at 5 inches. So here you can see, this is why I wanted to, so there's a couple reasons why I wanted to adhere this to cardstock. First of all, to make the colors stand out on the design, but then also it's easier to cut something this delicate if you have it on a piece of cardstock, if you have it attached to something else, rather than trying to cut just that die cut, because there's so many little pieces. This way they're glued into place all the way around, and I'm not going to be tearing all those little things. Make sense? I'm sure it does to you. Although, like, here's one, you can see it wasn't glued down all the way, and that's all right. And I can just trim it like that. But it's much easier to cut the die cut piece and the full cardstock together. So now I'm ready to make some cards with these. And for each of these, I'm using a rich raspberry base. I'm going to put basic white on the inside. Remember that if you are stamping on the inside, you should stamp before you adhere it. That way, if you make a mistake, you can just flip this white cardstock over and try again. A lot of my cards, most of my cards, I would say, I leave blank on the inside. Sometimes I will stamp something on the inside as I am ready to use them. I know some people don't even adhere their white cardstock or their neutral cardstock in the inside of the card until they're ready to use that card, because then they still have the two sides. But when they're ready to pull that card from their bin or their shelf or wherever they keep them, it still has that white tucked inside. So there won't be an extra step of cutting that piece and sticking it in and all that. And then I have 2 pieces of Mossy Meadow cardstock. I chose colors that, of course, we use the same color inks. And I've made the Mossy Meadow just a little bit larger than these pieces we already cut. So the main pieces are 5 inches by 3 3/4. And the Mossy Meadow then is 5 1/8 inch by 3 7/8 inch. But look how sharp these look. Oops, come on. Okay, so on this one, I have chosen this white crinkled seam binding. This is an awesome ribbon, super easy to work with. The crinkled, or the wrinkled, even you might want to call it, kind of gives it a, what do I want to say, like a shabby chic look to it. If you don't like the wrinkled look, you can just pull this ribbon like through a flat iron, like for your hair, but on like really low heat, and just kind of pull it through fast. You could go over it with a very warm or only warm iron, not hot. You just want it slightly warm, and it will smooth out your wrinkles. Or if you see somebody gives you a nice present with a gorgeous ribbon and bow attached, and you think, okay, that's just too pretty of ribbon to throw out, and you want to save it, you can untie it, iron it, and then kind of roll it. So, little tip. Yes, I have done that many a time, I'll say. Isn't that kind of the crafter's way? If we think we can use something, we have to save it. Now, as you can see, sometimes I'm good at tying these snug around my card layers, and other times not so much, like here. See how this is loose? I don't want it to be loose like that. So what I'm going to do is flip it over, and I'm just going to pull from each side. And you see how I have this gap here? And it doesn't really matter with this ribbon because it's so thin, but if it were a thicker ribbon, you definitely would want to cut that so that you're not getting like a bulky fold in the middle. And then I just go over it with some adhesive to hold that in place. And now that ribbon is laying nice and is snug around the front. So fun little tip to keep in your head there for when that happens. Because I know a lot of people would say, oh, I got to tie it again, and they try again. No, you don't have to tie it again. Just do that. Pull it tight and adhere those ends on the back side. All right, very pretty. Isn't that rich looking? I just love it, and I love those colors together. And you could even try other purples. Maybe, that's the fun thing about succulents. There are such varieties of succulents and colors of them. So let's do this. On this one, I'm going to make this one a thanks card. I am going to adhere this right to the card front. You might want to pop it up on dimensional, something like that. Either one of these two could be a vertical or a horizontal card. I'm going to make this a thanks card. I'm going to use this and, or should I use the green? No, I think I'll use white. And going to stamp with Rich Razzleberry. Punch it with my double oval punch. So happy this punch is carrying over to our next annual catalog because I love it. And I want to back this as well. So I would suggest using any color, any of the darker colors, the Mossy Meadow, the Rich Razzleberry, even the Old Olive. Probably not so much the soft seafoam because I don't think it would stand out quite as much. But as always, it's personal preference. And, oh look, I stamped before. I'm going to pop this up with dimensionals before I adhere it to the scallop oval. And then I can take this ribbon, I can tie a bow. I could have wrapped it around, done that. But instead of ribbon this time, I'm going to use, let me grab it here. Well, what happened to my, here it is, Old Olive. I'm just going to cut a real narrow strip. Let's see, this measures 1.5 inches. I think I'm going to go with like, oh, that's probably like 3/8 inch. And this is a scrap. Notice I didn't even measure it, but it is about 3 3/4 inches long. And I'm going to put this behind that. And I use the Old Olive just so it's a little bit brighter. I could go straight across with that, or I could cut banner ends. I think I'm going to go straight across with it. So we did a fun technique with our Stampin' blends. I'm going to go this direction. Did a fun technique with our Stampin' blends, and doing that one technique, we're able to make 2 cards. And you can see that the layouts of the 2 cards are very simple, but the cards themselves are really quite fancy, elegant. I'd even call them wow cards. So just a lot of fun. You picked up a tip about if you don't get your ribbon tight enough when you wrap it and tie the bow, how to correct that. I don't think this is quite centered. I'm going to have to move that because it's just not. And I'm sure we have other dies that you can do this with. What's the one I'm thinking of? Artistically, what's it called? This one. This is a technique that you could even do with this die. This is from the Artistically Inked bundle. You could do it with the leaves, but look at this one. Wouldn't that be really pretty? Color the 2 different flowers. There's some small ones in here, and then different leaves. So that would be fun to try too. And we have some new dies coming May 3rd in the new catalog, which really, really lend themselves to this technique. Now, on this card, we chose, or you chose, soft sea foam. Here's what it looks like on white. And I just did something a little bit different with that gold woven ribbon. And you can see here, some of the colors are just a little bit lighter than I did in the demonstration. But here you get a totally different look with the white versus the soft sea foam. Okay, so it's a fun technique. It's an easy technique. It's one you can do with many different dies for many different occasions and do it with any color you want, which means what? The possibilities are endless, right? Okay, possibilities are endless. I'm just scrolling back through comments. Holly, I love that color combination too. It's just really striking, isn't it? Margaret says it takes you hours to make just one card. Margaret, I will tell you, the more you do, the faster you will get. And my piece of advice, because I used to be the very same way. Take me so long. And now I'm much better at designing because number one, I do it more. I kind of let my imagination roll. If I wanted to, I fully intended to just put this on white like I did for my sample I made myself earlier. But I thought, why not try it on some other colors? So this was the perfect opportunity to do that. So if I get an idea that pops into my head, I tend to just go with it. And most often it works. And it's easy to do things like this and just vary the colors or maybe change the orientation. So Margaret, I think the more cards you create, you'll actually get faster. Or the other thing is they don't all have to be brand new every time. If you like this classic simple layout, use it over and over. You know, stamp the Easter bunny with some flowers, but it's the same basic layout. Another thing I do to help me if I kind of get in a rut, you know, people get writer's block. Sometimes we get stamper's block, right? Or crafter's block. Sometimes what I'll do is go to what I call my archives. That's my bins of cards that I had that I've made before for classes or Facebook Lives, whatever. And I'll just go to that and pull something out. And maybe I'll copy the color combination I used. Or maybe I use it most often to for card layouts and even fun folds. Use what you have. Barbara says she saves ribbon all the time too. I knew I wasn't alone on that one. Marcia, it really is a neat set. It really is. Oh, Inez, you just went and ordered. You're funny. Okay, great cutting. Very cool technique. Okay, I don't think... Ooh, just had a brainstorm, Marty. Versamark, then die cut. Oh, Versamark the die cut, and then add embossing powder. Oh, and heat emboss it? How cool would that be? Marty, oh, that's... Okay, who's going to try it, Marty? You or me? We do need to try that. Yeah, because you could just dab the Versamark right on there and then add your embossing powder. Oh, love that idea. Okay, I don't think I missed any questions. Wow, lots of you on here. Oh, Inez wants to see the cards that are in the soft succulent class. Well, here's one, and it's basically using that die in a different way. This one. And on that set of cards, I used, you can see I used different greens. And I didn't use Rich Raspberry, I used Blackberry Bliss. So that's some way to switch things out as well. I am happy you all were with me today, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share what I love to do. So thank you for being here. And if you would like to win, I'll give both of these cards away that I demonstrated. If you would like to win one of those cards, please type in the comments, Simply Succulents. Simply Succulents. Barbara, we're going to have to do some more embossing, heat embossing. It's always fun. Margaret, thank you. I'm glad you love them. Yes, just type Simply Succulents in the comments now, and I'll choose a winner for those. Actually, I just took a bunch of cards to the post office late this afternoon. I was so tired before I got on, and I was kind of worn out and exhausted, you know, and I have people in my life that, well, I'll just say, if you're a prayerful person or want to throw out some good thoughts, there are some people in my life that definitely could use some right now. And I hate to say it, but one of the things I do best is worry about people. I guess that's not a bad thing because that means I care. But yes, today was one of those days I've been consumed with worry. But I knew, when I thought, oh, I don't feel up to doing a Facebook Live, but I knew if I got on and met with all of you and gathered with you and we interacted, that it would just lift me up. And you have. So thank you. All right. And of course, back at all of you, I certainly keep all of you, my Stampin' friends, in my prayers daily, and for all of your needs and of those of your loved ones as well. Okay. You know, I need to flip this around because I don't like just talking to myself here. Let me see if I can flip it. Come on. Well, it doesn't want to. There we go. I will not see you. If you weren't on at the very beginning, you might not have heard this, but I will most likely not be on a Facebook Live. If I do, it'll be very impromptu on Friday. But Andrea and I are going to spend Friday and Saturday working on her wedding invitations. So I will most likely not have a Facebook Live. And of course, a 2 p.m. Facebook Live on Good Friday, I don't know, just at that time isn't quite the best for those of us that observe Good Friday. Happy Easter. I look forward to seeing you next Monday. And between now and then, happy stamping, stay healthy, stay well, enjoy the people around you, and have a happy Easter. Bye, everybody.